guys, welcome back to Etheric Tide. This is Lauren. I'm a psychic medium living in Brisbane. Just have a pick a card. Now this is just a general reading for the collective, so take what resonates and leave what doesn't. This is to give you an idea of what energies are going to be coming up for you over the next week or so, and any advice on how to navigate those energies. Now if you've never done this before, the best thing is to take a moment, breathe, feel into it, and choose 1, 2, or 3, whichever one you're guided to. And there's no wrong answers here. If you're guided to all 3, then you can listen to all 3. So without further ado, let's start with number 1. Okay, so for those who chose number 1, we have Justice in reverse. I am drawn to the fact that this is a Libran card, so if this is to do with a love relationship, you may be dealing with a Libra, or perhaps with the balance within that relationship is not where it should. And sometimes when it comes to relationships, sometimes we feel like justice isn't served. Maybe you've left the relationship or thinking about leaving a relationship, and sometimes when perhaps we feel as though the other person has done wrong by us, there's a part of us that is really yearning for justice, yearning for some sort of conclusion or closure associated with the relationship. If we feel as though it ended but we weren't given what we deserved, or the amount of energy and effort we put into that relationship wasn't fully recognized. And sometimes when relationships end, we don't always get closure. I mean, there's a reason why it's ending. If somebody was so kind as to give us closure, then possibly there wouldn't be an issue with the communication. And particularly, even though this isn't a swords, but we do have the swords of communication here. Balance, communication. So when it comes to having a healthy relationship, there needs to be that give and take between the two parties. Both people need to be fighting for the relationship, in the sense that they are diligently putting in the effort to bring their best selves to the relationship. And it's not about there's a difference between, nobody's perfect, you know? Nobody is really the perfect person as they are. They're slowly growing into a better person as you move along, and the more that you're within a relationship, you can grow as a person, either on your own or because of that person. And if you are in a relationship where the person is refusing to grow, and they're refusing to grow with you or step up to the plate and be willing to put aside their own stuff in order to hear what you have to say, and care about the healthiness of the relationship enough in order to really listen and to really bring themselves to it and work on it with you. And you know, there could be so many great qualities within a person, and you know, someone doesn't even have to be really horrible per se, but sometimes they can just be immature and you outgrow them. And that's a really hard thing to come to like realization, that you may need to leave someone because they're not willing to grow with you, they're not willing to communicate, they're not willing to come with you. They're happy to just stay where they are, and it might feel like it's very low vibration. They're just not willing to expand, and that can be quite heartbreaking. They're not putting in as much effort into themselves and into the relationship as you are. And sometimes that's enough. That's enough closure to know that they weren't willing to grow with you. And it is bittersweet. It is a bit melancholy. You could say that this person could have been the catalyst to help you grow, and that you could love and cherish the relationship for what it was, and know that you can no longer expand within that relationship. And for those of you where this is even worse, where it feels as though the other person was unhealthy, perhaps cruel even, there is a part of you that might want there to be justice to be served or karma to be served. And just know that we create our own karma within ourselves, and if the way that person has acted has led to you needing to step away from them, that's karma within itself. And if you know that there's something within them that's unable to grow, unable to heal, unable to put aside their own personal hurt in order to service the relationship, well, you know that that's going to carry on into their relationships into the future. So that within itself is karma. That is justice. You create your own justice. That's number one. Every time, I don't know if you can hear it, but every time I do these things, somebody starts drilling or making noise. For those who chose number 2, we have the Death card. Now, the Death card is about transformation and surrendering to transformation. It's where we finally get it. We finally put something to bed. Maybe it's a pattern of behavior within, I kind of feel in the relationships with the cards today, where we finally get the lesson that we were supposed to learn within the past relationship and the one before that, the one before that. Spirit has this really interesting way, because you know how you'll say something like, why do I keep ending up in this same situation? Why do I date the same person? Or how come my work life always ends in the same pattern? And, you know, we'd like to think that it is being done to us, and we'd like to think that everything bad that happens to us is happening from something outside ourselves. We need to get really truthful and realize that a lot of what is being reflected on the outside is a reflection of what's happening to us on the inside. And that's not to say that it's your fault that you're in a bad relationship or when somebody's treating you bad. That's not your fault. It isn't. It's not your fault that your workplace might be taking advantage of you. It's not your fault that maybe you're in an abusive relationship. That's never your fault. But when we start to notice that there's a pattern that we repetitively are getting into these situations where we're getting mistreated, and we're noticing that we're getting mistreated, there's something within us that is being left unhealed if we stay in those situations for too long. So there's a difference between like, oh, I recognize that person was treating me unjustly, and if we had healed that unmet need or wound, we possibly would recognize that really quickly and have zero tolerance for it and also all of the, I guess, gusto to walk away from it with, not with anger, but with absolute certainty, and to know that it's like, no, that's not good enough, I'm going to walk away from this. The moment that that boundary is pushed, the moment that you are disrespected, the moment that that person says something that's really devaluing to you as a human being. And I understand how complicated relationships can be when we care about someone, but there is a point where we realize that we ultimately do have the power to take ourselves out of our own situation. And it's not that the way you're getting treated is your fault. You just have the power to end it. And you take with it the learning. What did you learn from this experience? And you can take that into the next sunrise. So that's for number 2. For those who chose number 3, okay. 9 of Pentacles. This is my single lady card, or single man card, if you'd like. This is interdependence and independence. This is where we look within ourselves to fulfill our own needs. However, we are also capable of asking for those needs to be met by people outside ourselves as well. Sometimes we may boomerang between, I want to date, I want to be single, I want to be in a relationship, I want to be single, and it can get exhausting because you find that whilst you're in that single state, you yearn for all of the comforts of being in relationship with someone else. And when it comes around to having to either date or be in relationship with someone else, it can be painful or difficult, and you're navigating between getting your needs met and also being hurt by the other person. And sometimes it can get so exhausting that you're like, well, I may as well be single. It's just easier. It's just easier to just do things by myself and not have to rely or trust on another person because I get hurt. Or whatever that particular belief system is that you have surrounding relationships. It could be a little different to everyone, but generally it will be to do with trust. And I think for those who have chosen 3, it definitely is to do with trust. Trusting another person to fulfill your needs, you know. And what's really good about the 9 of Pentacles is they are a person that accepts themselves wholly for who they are, and they do have the capability to fulfill. There's nothing missing here. They have food, they have an income, they have abundance, they feel beautiful inside and out. There's a tranquility and a peace that's been made within the person in this card, where they're like, you know what, I know that I'm going to be okay as I am. I know that who I am is okay. And I know that by being okay with who I am, I'll attract those into my life that are also okay with who I am. And I don't expect them to fulfill my needs. But I know that organically, as relationships deepen and connect, I have the capacity to ask for my needs to be met from that other person. Not from a place of neediness, but from a place of mutual love and respect for each other in their relationship. Yeah, so I'm kind of like pointing out that idea of we can, boomerang between this. I don't need anybody, but secretly underneath that, it's like you're desperately needing somebody. This is having peace within where oneself is, whether that is alone, and to be at peace with that loneliness, I guess. And to know that once we become at peace with that, that's when we attract the right people into our lives. So that's for number 3 there. If you would like a personal reading, you can go to www.etherictide.com. I won't have much availability till the new year, or you can just personal message me on my Facebook page, at Etheric Tide. And I do hope that you guys have a wonderful week. See you next time. Bye.